Hi, we're the Spratland family. My name's Jacob. This is our son Judah, and this is my wife McKenna, and this is our story.
Asked me to share. I wasn't sure if I was ready to share our story yet. I haven't shared it really with a lot of people at all, but I was praying through it, and I knew that, like you said, like God is glorified in sharing our stories, and I thought hopefully it could be a blessing because God really, really showed up in our lives, and it was super evident. So this is Judah Ira Spratland. He is our whole world, sorry. He is the love of my life. I guess I'll start in the beginning. I was pretty sick. I just was having some coughing issues, like lots of like swelling. We had just gone to visit my parents in August, and they live in northern Minnesota. So I was super swollen, and I just figured it was from like all of the travel, all of the flight. We got back on a Sunday, and Monday we decided, you know what, we're just gonna run to the urgent care to save money and just get some cough syrup. Well, we go to urgent care, and they're like, no, you need to go to the ER. So we do that, and they're monitoring me, and I have super high through the roof blood pressure. I have pneumonia, I have fluid in my lungs. This guy's doing great, but we're there all day long. And at the end of the day, they're like, all right, you know what? We're going to admit you. We're going to try to keep you pregnant for at least 48 hours. We're going to inject you with a bunch of steroids to help your baby grow. And I was like, wait a second. Like, what are you talking about? He's not due for another 2 months. And I will say, like, it was kind of all a whirlwind, but I definitely had this weird, inexplicable peace. Like, I kept telling you, like, I know like he's going to be fine. Like, I know he's going to be fine. I just felt it. And yeah, next morning they came in and they were like, emergency C-section, let's go. And I remember when I was pregnant, I told Jake the worst thing that could happen to me in my birth would be getting a C-section. Ironically, that was the best thing that happened in my birth story. But I've always been very much a planner, super, like, I had a whole birth plan, right? We did the hospital orientations, I watched all the videos, like it was gonna go exactly to plan. And then, you know, you make your plans and so we went over, got a C-section. Jake actually wasn't allowed to go with me then. And that was probably the hardest part. My first big moment of feeling God was when they had brought me into the OR and I was about to get a spinal shunt, and I was terrified because those needles are huge. And there was a woman, later found out her name was Lily, and she was a neonatologist. But she just grabbed me, looked me in the eye and said, you're gonna be okay, put my head on her shoulder and just comforted me. And like, I just felt this warmth and this peace, and it felt like Jesus was holding me. And this woman had no idea like that she was doing that for me, but it was such a comfort. And then Jake came in, and this little guy was born. I heard his cry for the first time, and it was amazing. He was born at 11:35 a.m., 3.5 ounces, 15.5 inches. They whisked him away. Jake went with him to the NICU. This is him. Kind of give you an idea, you've seen him now, but how small he was. He was pretty tiny. Yeah. Like if you see his arm on this side, it's the same size as Jake's index finger. So he was really small. He's still small, but he was tiny. So after my C-section, Jake went with him, got some pictures. I went to postpartum after they do the surgeries, and I just remember waking up a little bit and hearing all the other moms with their babies. And in our room, we didn't have our baby, and that was really hard. But we were encouraged. I mean, the best thing was that we were obviously in the same for preeclampsia, which is all the fluid. And then I had something called HELP syndrome, which is kind of rare. It's like less than 20,000 people a year get it, but it causes like just low platelet counts, lots of bleeding, things like that. So they had to give me this medicine that would prevent seizures. And what had happened was they gave too much of that, and so I actually crashed. And it was during a time when Jake, my parents had flown in, and they went off to lunch. And I was in our hospital room. Judah was in the NICU, and I just felt like everything really slowed down. And there were lots of people in and out of the room talking to me, and I just felt like I was stuck in my body. Just people asking me questions, and I could see them, and I could hear them, but it was like I was paralyzed, like I couldn't respond. And I just remember thinking, will I ever get to see my husband again? And will I ever get to meet my son? I actually didn't get to meet Judah until the 27th, so 4 days after he was born, which was really hard. It's great having him here now, but those 4 days were the longest days of my life. The NICU gave us iPads, actually, which is really sweet. So they videotaped him 24/7, and I could see him from my room, and Jake would go back and forth and spend time with Judah and FaceTime me and come back, and that was the first time I ever got to hold him. And this is Dad over here, again with the size of his arm. The NICU actually was a really great experience. Judah spent 44 days in there. It was long and it was really hard, but we couldn't have asked for better staff. He has a favorite nurse there who called him Joodlebug and would love to snuggle him, and just really kind of almost felt like family to us after being there for almost 6 weeks. It was really nice, and they did a few other things for our family that I just really felt like God was speaking to us directly and encouraging us. Oh, sorry, this is another one of his NICU room, his incubator. Actually, the blanket was just funny because my sister lives in England and my dad has a weird obsession with minions. So that was what they chose, the NICU chose for them. And the lion Judah, he gets lions all the time. So this is some of the things that were really sweet for us. When I was growing up, my parents always had lighthouses all over the house, and it was just always been a really big symbol of hope in our lives. And in his room, every room had different pictures, and he just so happened to get the lighthouse room. And I just knew that was God's little way of just saying, like, hey, you're okay, I'm here. And then just the little things. When you're in the NICU, you have to look for like the little things because things are really, really hard. And leaving him each day is what was the hardest thing in the world. And so one of his nurses wrote his goals. I know it's really blurry, but it says grow big and strong. And it's just those little moments of just, okay, we got this, you know. And then the next one is these right here. Those are hearts, and Dad and I would actually be able to wear them so that we get our smell on them. And then when we weren't there, they would place them on his chest so he could smell our scent and really kind of help that bond, which was really comforting to me as his mom and not being able to be there 24/7 and wanting to hold him. And then these beads, the NICU put those in there. Those were just for him. The hummingbird symbolizes hope and the tree of life for life. So that was really cool. I don't know what else I have. So he graduated. He got to come home. God was in the story. And even if he didn't, God would still be in the story. But he did. He had, the one thing that I really want to emphasize is he was so strong. Like he was born and had an APGAR score of 9. Yeah, like 98% room oxygen air on his own. Like he came early, but he's such a fighter. Yeah, so he was really strong. He definitely, he just had a little bit of things. I like to say that he was just medium rare and needed to cook a little bit longer, so he didn't have anything too serious. He did and does have a couple holes in his heart, which isn't too uncommon for preemies and babies. And hopefully those, will close as he gets older, and if not, people lead perfectly normal lives. He did have some respiratory issues in the NICU where he had to go on and off vacotherm, which is just something to help develop his lungs. And he was on and off oxygen. But he, overcame all of it, super strong. And after 44 days, he got to come home. I got him a little graduation cap, you can see it in the corner, for his little NICU graduation. And since he's been home, it's been amazing. Just being parents for the first time. We're tired, but we're overjoyed. And the biggest thing is just finally being able to feel like we're his parents. The NICU is super helpful and really nice, but you never know, like, can I pick him up? Like, can I feed him? Am I holding him correctly? And of course, as first-time parents, we worry about everything, but it helps us kind of find our confidence a little bit more now that he's home. And then I have pictures of our families with him. There's Angela. That was a big thing too. So then the NICU, only Dad and I were able to go all the way up until October 3rd, where they finally changed the rules from COVID, where people could come visit. So Angela actually was able to come in. And as hard as it was for us having our son in the NICU, I feel like it was kind of harder for especially Angela, Steve, my parents, just not being able to meet him. And he's he's a cool guy. Like, I wouldn't want to go that long without meeting him. So there's Angela feeding him in the NICU, my parents when they came to town. Yeah, and then more. Here's some pictures of him now. These are our walks we go on, and he's just a little model. He's, again, 6 pounds now. His pediatrician says that he is like developmentally on track with full-term babies. He is getting different therapies and stuff, eating, speech, all of that, but he is doing amazing. And I know his size, you know that he's a preemie, but other than that, he doesn't really have a lot of residual things from being the verses. So you can see in your packet, I chose Mark 5:35. Talitha kum. It says it means little girl arise, but every day when I would come into the NICU, I would whisper to him, arise, arise, and I just get up, get better, let's go home. As much as I wanted him home, I knew that he needed to be in a place where he was ready to come home, and that was kind of the hardest part. Was I just wanted my boy home, and so I whispered this word to him, arise, get up, like Jesus did when that little girl passed away on the back. And 2 Corinthians 4:16-17. These are my favorite. This is my favorite verse. Actually, 16-18 is my favorite, but I read it every day, and I have for about 10 years now. And it's therefore we do not lose heart, though outwardly we are wasting away. Inwardly we are being renewed day by day. For light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. And I remember reading this when he was in the NICU and kind of being angry. Like, what do you, light and momentary troubles? Like, this is the biggest thing we have ever been through. But it really, in the grand scheme of things, it truly is. Like, nothing compares to the glory of eternity. And these things, I don't want to be cliche and say, like, God has things happen for a reason. And of course he has a purpose. But definitely, after his story, after me coming out of what happened, I know, like, I just have such a heavier reliance on God. Again, like I said, I was such a planner, such a prepper, and just being able to, or being forced to relinquish control and give it to God and just say, okay, like everything that I planned, everything isn't going at all how I planned it, and so allowing God to do that. I did want to mention light and momentary troubles. I was reading that. So I was discharged from the hospital. I went to the ICU after, I know I'm all over the place. Went to the ICU after I crashed. Was there in the hospital for a few more days, came home, was home for about a week, and then that following Saturday, we had just gotten home from the NICU, took a nap, woke up and was just hemorrhaging blood, And at the time we were living with Jake's parents, with Angela and Steve, so poor Angela, oh my gosh. So I went to the bathroom and I remember looking at Jake and saying, like, please don't let me die. So Angela's in there, he's in there, he calls the ambulance. We luckily live right across the street from Banner, so we go over there and they're like, oh yeah, no, you're fine. That's just your period and you're anxious. That's what I was told by the on-call OB. I was like, okay, got discharged.
McKenna, explain how much blood that you're talking.
Because
I've heard Angela's side of this. Like, she's talking walls.
You guys ever seen The Shining? Like the elevator scene? So overall, actually, I lost 3 liters of blood. The human body has 5 liters. So got 6 bags of transfusion. It's like I got that bleeding disease. So they sent us home. The OB sent us home, and I just felt like such a burden. Like, I feel scared. Why did I even come here? You know. But at the time, we knew for a fact it was a big deal. Obviously, you wouldn't call the ambulance for something like that. And so we left. Bleeding had stopped on its own, so that's part of why they sent us home. And then thought we were fine. Next day, went over to our friend's house, and our friend is very clean, like OCD clean, like very anally clean. Bled out all over his floor. Called the ambulance again. And then this time Jake was like, no, we're not being discharged. You're going to do an ultrasound. And he was my advocate the whole time, which is really great because I always say he's my voice because he has no problem speaking up, whereas I'm a little more apprehensive. But So yeah, he did. We got the ultrasound, and it showed that I still had tissue left over from my emergency C-section, which was causing the bleeding. So we were in the hospital again, and then the OB was like, okay, we're gonna do a super easy surgery called a DNC. We're just gonna go in and sweep out all that tissue. It's basically an outpatient procedure. You're gonna be fine. Perfect. So we do that. I go under, say bye to Jake. He goes to the NICU to hang out with this guy, and apparently during my surgery, when they had removed the tissue, it exposed blood vessels that were open, and so I bled out during the surgery. So they had to pack me up and race me to radiology and give me more blood, and then I woke up the next day intubated in the NICU, or not in the NICU, in the ICU. He was in the NICU. So yeah, like everything that was happening was just like everyone's like, oh, don't worry about that. Like 1% of people deal with that, and like everything that happened in the hospital, I was the 1%. Like anything that could go wrong did go wrong at the time, and then I'm here now, and he's here now, and we're doing incredible. Like I'm just healing super quick. Our family is just overjoyed. The amount of love and support and prayer that we know that we've received is just overwhelming. I don't even have words. We had a mountain of boxes for Judah when we were in the NICU, and we bought our house, and they put in a fridge while we were in the hospital, which sounds little, but it was so stressful because I was supposed to still be working for those 2 months like that he came early. So we had just bought a house. We had all these big finances, and then it's like, oh, okay, good luck. And as someone who needs to have that control, that was terrifying, and it was just so eye-opening being on the other side of it and saying, okay, God, like every little thing, like you just provided abundantly, gave us peace when things were so hard, surrounded us with people who love us, surrounded us with people who don't even know us, that would knew us through like a friend or a family member, and would send us a card or just reach out and let us know that they were praying for us, which was absolutely huge. And yeah, we're doing amazing. And God, I look back through the story, and I know it's a lot, and there's a lot that I left out, but God was there every step of the way. Like I love the saying, God is in the waiting. He's in everything, and it's so easy to think about, oh yeah, God is here when great things happen, and can feel like you're heavily relying on things or on God when bad things are happening, but also knowing that He's there in every single moment when things are just kind of monotonous. When you're in the hospital for 2 weeks, and when you're not working and your son's in the NICU, you just lose sense of time. Like you don't know what day it is, what time it is, what last time you showered, and just knowing that God is with you in every one of those seconds, and just being able to lean in close to Him was amazing. And that's the best part of our story, is just knowing how faithful God is, how close He is and quick He is to comfort us. So that's our story. How much I love Jake. I would use him as a human shield in a heartbeat to protect my son.
That's the whole point.
That's the whole point. So knowing like how much you love your son, like how much like God loved His son and would still sacrifice him for us because of how much He loved us. Like I can't even talk about it. So like that of God, He does love us. He loves us so much, and having a child is really deep in that understanding, and which is funny because it still just scratches the surface of God's love for us. But
Like the moment I saw him, we're in the operating room, and literally like I just like in my head it was instantly like, oh, that's all the evidence of God I ever need again, ever.
Wow.
Seriously.